Captain Susan Miller stood tall on the bridge of the star horizon, watching the massive space station grow larger in the viewscreen. After decades of radio signals and distant observations, humanity was about to meet the Galactic Confederacy face to face. Susan felt the weight of 6 billion lives on her shoulders. Every human on Earth was counting on her team to make a good first impression. "How are you feeling, Captain?" Jack Howard asked, his hand resting near his weapon. As security chief, Jack trusted no one, especially aliens they knew nothing about. "Like I might throw up," Susan admitted with a small smile. "But don't tell the crew." Patricia Young adjusted her diplomatic sash and checked her translator device one final time. "Remember, Captain, we represent the best of humanity today. The Xelarians have been watching us for decades. They know our strengths, but also our conflicts and wars. We need to show them we're ready for peaceful relations." The star horizon docked with a gentle bump. Susan took a deep breath and led her team of 12 to the airlock. As the door slid open, they got their first look at the aliens who controlled most of the known galaxy. The Xelarians stood nearly 7 feet tall, with blue-tinted skin that seemed to shimmer under the lights. They had 4 arms and large eyes that blinked sideways. The leader stepped forward, towering over Susan. "I am High Commander Vorthak of the Galactic Confederacy. We welcome our human neighbors to civilized space." His words came through the translator with only a slight delay. Susan performed the greeting they had practiced. "High Commander, I am Captain Susan Miller of Earth. We come with open hands and open hearts, seeking friendship." The next hours went better than Susan had hoped. The Xelarians showed them to comfortable rooms and gave them a tour of the public areas of the station. They saw aliens from at least 6 different species, all seemingly working together in harmony. During the formal dinner that evening, things began to change. High Commander Vorthak spoke less about cooperation and more about Earth joining the Confederacy as a protected world. "Your species has potential," Vorthak said, his upper arms making a gesture the humans didn't understand, "though you are still primitive in many ways." Susan felt her face grow hot, but kept her diplomat smile. "We have much to learn, certainly, but humans have unique strengths to offer the galaxy as equal partners." Vorthak's sideways blinks seemed dismissive. "Equal? Your world has barely mastered solar system travel. The Confederacy has ruled the stars for 10,000 years. Patricia Young leaned forward. "With respect, High Commander, we believe all species have value regardless of their technological advancement." A Xelarian official sitting nearby made a harsh sound. "The female speaks out of turn. This is not permitted in formal settings." Jack Howard tensed, but Susan motioned for him to stay calm. Patricia, however, didn't back down. "I am the diplomatic advisor to this mission, and speak with Captain Miller's authority," she said firmly. The Xelarian official stood suddenly, his 4 arms making threatening gestures toward Patricia. "You will learn your place in the galactic order." Jack moved between them, hands raised. "Let's all stay calm. This is just a cultural misunderstanding." The Xelarian guards moved with shocking speed. Energy weapons hummed to life. A blast hit Patricia directly in the chest. She fell without making the sound. "Patricia!" Susan rushed to her side, but it was too late. More weapons fire filled the room. 2 more of her crew dropped. Jack managed to pull his own weapon before something hit him hard from behind. Susan saw blood on his face as he fell to his knees. "What are you doing?" Susan shouted at Vorthak. "We came in peace." The High Commander looked down at her with cold eyes. "Peace requires obedience, human. Your kind must learn this lesson early." He motioned to his guards. "Take the survivors. They will serve as examples." The last thing Susan saw before something hit her head was Patricia's lifeless body being dragged away by Xelarian guards. Then darkness took her, and with it, humanity's hopes for a peaceful first contact. Admiral Frank Carter paced the floor of the United Earth Defense Council chamber. The giant screens on the wall showed the last transmission from the star horizon before it went silent. The room was quiet except for his footsteps. "Play it again," he ordered, his voice tight with worry. The computer responded, and once more they watched Captain Susan Miller's final message. Her face appeared calm, but her eyes showed fear. "This is Captain Miller of the Star Horizon. First contact with the Galactic Confederacy has been made. Initial meetings were positive, but situation has changed. The Accelerians have shown." Static cut across the screen. Then Susan's voice came through, broken and urgent. "Killed Patricia. Weapons fired. Taking prisoners. Earth must prepare." The transmission ended in a burst of noise. Olivia Martinez, director of the Defense Council, stood up. "That's all we received 3 days ago. Nothing since." Alan Wright, the intelligence officer, pulled up data on his tablet. "We've analyzed everything we know about the Accelerians from the first contact protocols. They've been watching us for decades, according to Captain Miller's early reports. And now they've attacked our people," Frank said, slamming his fist on the table. "We need to respond." Olivia nodded. "But how? The Star Horizon was our most advanced ship. The Accelerians have technology far beyond ours." Alan cleared his throat. "Maybe not as far as we think. I've been studying the brief scans the Star Horizon sent back. The Accelerians have weaknesses we can exploit. Their ships use a different kind of shielding that might be vulnerable to our phase disruptors. Even so, we're outnumbered," Frank said. "We can't launch a full attack." "No," Olivia agreed. "But we can send a rescue team." She pressed a button, and a new image appeared on the screen. It showed a sleek black ship unlike any other in Earth's fleet. "This is the Valiant. It's a prototype stealth vessel with experimental cloaking technology. Not even our own sensors can detect it when it's running silent." Frank studied the ship with new interest. "Who would lead this mission?" "Commander William Reeves," Olivia said. "He's the best pilot we have, and he helped design the Valiant's stealth systems." As if on cue, the doors slid open, and Commander Reeves walked in. He was shorter than Frank expected, but his eyes showed sharp intelligence. "Commander," Frank nodded, "are you prepared to rescue our people from an alien space station we know almost nothing about?" William smiled slightly. "With your permission, Admiral, I've already assembled a team. Combat Specialist Grace Duncan and Tech Expert Eric Bennett are waiting for your orders." Alan handed William a data drive. "This contains everything we know about Solarian technology and biology. It's not much, but it might help." "One more thing," Olivia said, her face grim. "We intercepted a transmission from the Confederacy an hour ago. They're demanding Earth surrender significant resources and accept status as a protected world under their control." "And if we refuse?" William asked. Frank's expression darkened. "They said they would execute the prisoners as an example, starting with the females." William's jaw tightened. "They clearly don't understand humans very well." "No," Frank agreed. "They don't. That's why your mission has two objectives: rescue our people and send a message. Humans don't surrender, and we don't let threats against our women go unanswered." William saluted. "The Valiant can be ready in 6 hours." "You have 4, Frank said. "Every minute our people are in Solarian hands is too long." As William left to prepare his ship, Olivia turned to Frank. "And what if they fail?" Frank looked at the star chart showing Earth and the vast unknown galaxy beyond. "Then we prepare for war. We'll arm every ship, every station, every satellite we have. The Accelerians think we're primitive and weak. They're about to learn how dangerous humans can be when protecting their own." High Commander Vorthak stood before the massive communications array. His 4 arms were positioned in the formal stance of authority as technicians prepared to broadcast his message to Earth. Behind him, guards held Captain Susan Miller, her face bruised but her eyes defiant. "Begin transmission," Vorthak ordered. The main screen lit up with the Confederacy symbol, and Vorthak faced the camera. "People of Earth, I am High Commander Vorthak of the Galactic Confederacy. Your diplomatic team violated our sacred customs and responded with violence when corrected. This cultural blasphemy cannot be tolerated. Susan bit her lip to keep from shouting out the truth. The past 3 days had been a nightmare. Her crew was split up, locked in cells designed for species much larger than humans. She had not seen Jack since the attack and feared he might be dead. As the dominant power in this region of space, Vorthak continued, the Confederacy offers Earth a chance to correct its mistake. You will surrender 20% of your planet's resources and accept status as a protected world within our domain. This is a generous offer. A guard pushed Susan forward. Your leader will now speak. Susan looked directly into the camera. This is Captain Susan Miller of the Star Horizon. She paused, choosing her words carefully. The Accelarians attacked us without warning during dinner on our first night. She saw Vorthak stiffen, but he didn't stop her. They killed Patricia Young when she spoke as a diplomatic equal. I urge Earth to consider all options carefully. Remember our history lessons about facing bullies. Stars that burn brightest often fade first. She hoped someone back home would understand her hidden message. Earth couldn't win a direct fight, but the Accelarians had weaknesses they could exploit. Their overconfidence was one of them. Vorthak pushed her aside. You have 3 Earth days to accept our terms. If you refuse, we will execute the prisoners, beginning with the females. The transmission ended. Guards took Susan back to a small room where several alien officials waited. None were Accelarians. One stepped forward, a tall, thin creature with 6 eyes that blinked in sequence. I am Delegate Kisril. The High Commander wishes to understand your species better before your execution. Your reactions are puzzling to us. Susan sat in the chair they indicated. What puzzles you? Another alien, short with gray skin, consulted a datapad. Humans show extreme protective behavior toward females, yet you allow them to serve in dangerous roles. This is contradictory. We protect all our people equally, Susan said. Women and men have the same rights and opportunities. Vorthak entered the room, his large eyes fixed on Susan. This is why your species remains primitive. Inefficient allocation of resources. He moved closer. Your Earth leaders will surrender rather than let you die. They value females too highly. Susan smiled for the first time in days. That's where you've made your mistake. Humans don't value women because we're weak. We value women because we're equal. And we never surrender to those who threaten us. Vorthak made a dismissive gesture. Your species has existed for a mere moment in galactic time. The Confederacy has ruled for 10,000 years. We know how lesser species respond to threats. Have you ever encountered humans before? Susan asked. No, Vorthak admitted, but we have studied your transmissions, your violent history, your endless conflicts. Then you should be worried, Susan said quietly, because those conflicts taught us something important. The most dangerous human is not the one with the biggest weapon. It's the one protecting someone they care about. Vorthak turned to leave. Prepare her for the public execution. When Earth sees their females die, they will understand their place in the galaxy. After he left, Susan closed her eyes and whispered to herself, they have no idea what's coming. In the cell next door, Jack Howard pressed his ear against the wall, listening. His body was bruised, and one arm hung useless at his side, but his mind was clear. He had to find a way to reach the others before the execution. Earth wouldn't abandon them, but they needed to be ready when help arrived. The Valiant dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Accelarian system. The ship was nearly invisible against the darkness of space, its black hull absorbing light rather than reflecting it. Commander William Reeves studied the large space station on his view screen. It hung in orbit around a blue-green gas giant, a massive structure shaped like a wheel with spokes connecting to a central hub. Cloaking systems at full power, Eric Bennett reported from his station. The young tech expert had barely slept during the 2-day journey. Their sensors can't detect us. Grace Duncan checked her weapons one last time. The combat specialist had modified her gear based on the limited information they had about Xilarian physiology. How do we get in? That station must have thousands of security measures. William pointed to a small dot near the outer ring of the station. Maintenance hatches. All space stations need them, even alien ones. We'll dock there using magnetic seals rather than standard docking procedures. Eric frowned at his console. I'm picking up unusual communication traffic. Something big is happening on that station. Put it on screen, William ordered. The main screen flickered to show a large open area inside the station. Hundreds of aliens from different species gathered around a raised platform. On the platform stood High Commander Vorthak and several human prisoners. Captain Susan Miller was among them, along with 3 other women from her crew. This looks like some kind of public event, Grace said, her voice tight with anger. Eric enhanced the audio. Vorthak's voice filled the bridge. We'll demonstrate the price of defiance. Earth has refused our generous offer. Now they will learn the consequences of their primitive pride. William's hands gripped the edge of his console. They're going to execute them. Today. Then we need to move now, Grace said, already heading for the airlock where their small stealth shuttle waited. William nodded to Eric. Get into their systems. Find anything that might help us. Eric's fingers flew across his keyboard. I'm in their lower security network. It's not as advanced as we feared. They're overconfident. He pulled up a station map. I've got locations of all security checkpoints and guard rotations. William studied the map, planning their route. What about the prisoners? Most are held in the central detention area, Eric said. But Captain Miller and the women scheduled for execution are in a special holding cell near the main hall. Grace checked her team of 4 rescue specialists. We split up. My team goes for Captain Miller and the others at the execution. Commander, you and Eric head for the main detention area for the rest of the crew. William nodded. We meet back at Maintenance Bay 12 in 3 hours. In the holding cell, Susan Miller worked at loosening a panel behind her bunk. Her cellmate, Communications Officer Lisa Johnson, kept watch at the door. Guards coming, Lisa whispered. Susan quickly moved away from the panel and sat on her bunk. 2 Xilarian guards entered, followed by a smaller alien with green skin and large eyes. I am Medical Officer Zix, the small alien said. I must prepare you for the ceremony. You mean our execution, Susan said flatly. Zix looked uncomfortable. I must check your vital signs to ensure proper function during the broadcast. As Zix scanned her, Susan noticed his hands trembling. You don't approve of this, do you? She whispered. Zix glanced nervously at the guards, then leaned closer, pretending to adjust his scanner. Many species in the Confederacy do not agree with Xilarian methods. Some of us are prisoners too, just with better cages. Susan's eyes widened slightly. Are there others who feel this way? The Thraxians, the Volturi, my people, the Nexians. We all serve because we must. But Zix was interrupted as the guards moved closer. Enough talking, one guard said. Is she ready? Zix nodded reluctantly. Yes. All readings normal. As they led Susan away, her mind raced. The Confederacy wasn't as united as it appeared. That knowledge might be useful, if she lived long enough to use it. Meanwhile, at Maintenance Hatch 42B, Grace Duncan's team cut through the final security seal. As the hatch opened, she whispered into her communicator, We're in. Operation Rescue is a go. The Great Hall was packed with aliens of all shapes and sizes. Some came to watch out of curiosity, others because they were ordered to attend. High Commander Vorthak stood on the raised platform, his 4 arms held high for silence. Behind him, 4 human women, including Captain Susan Miller, stood with their hands bound, guards on either side. Today, the Confederacy shows what happens to species who refuse to know their place, Vorthak announced. The humans rejected our generous offer. They chose pride over survival. In the air ducts above the hall, Grace Duncan watched through a small grate. Her team was in position, waiting for her signal. Through her earpiece, she heard Eric's voice. "I'm in their main security system. Guards are reporting a disturbance in the lower levels. That's William's team freeing the other prisoners." "Perfect timing," Grace whispered. "Stand by." Below, Vorthak continued his speech. "For 10,000 years, the Confederacy has maintained order in this galaxy. Lesser species must learn obedience. The humans will learn this lesson today." Susan Miller stepped forward despite her restraints. "Commander, I request one final statement as the ranking Earth officer." Vorthak hesitated, then nodded. "Speak your last words, human. Your planet will hear them before they surrender." Susan looked directly at the cameras broadcasting the event. "People of Earth, I stand before you not as a victim, but as proof of what we've always known. Bullies exist everywhere, even among the stars. But remember what history taught us." A sudden explosion rocked the far side of the hall. Alarms blared as smoke filled the air. Vorthak turned in surprise. "What is happening?" "Guards." Grace gave the signal. "Now." Her team blew the grate and dropped into the chaos below, weapons ready. At the same moment, the lights went out, plunging the hall into darkness. Susan acted instantly. She dropped to the floor, sweeping her leg to trip the nearest guard. Even with bound hands, she managed to grab his weapon as he fell. "Lisa, down," she shouted to her communications officer. Grace reached the platform in seconds, her team creating a protective formation around the prisoners. "Captain Miller, we're here to take you home." Susan stared in shock. "Whoa. Commander Reeves sent us. The Valiant is waiting. Let's move." In the confusion, they cut the prisoners' bonds and gave them weapons. Aliens fled in all directions, some trying to stop them, others simply trying to escape the chaos. This way, Grace led them toward a side exit where they could reach the maintenance tunnels. A large Silurian guard blocked their path. Grace fired, but he dodged with surprising speed. The guard lunged at Lisa, but Susan tackled him from the side. Despite his greater size and strength, Susan's fury made her formidable. She struck at vulnerable points Alan Wright had identified in his intelligence briefing. The guard fell to his knees, amazed that a human female had bested him. Susan didn't hesitate, firing the alien weapon to stun him. "No one threatens my crew." They reached the maintenance tunnel just as William's voice came through Grace's communicator. "We've got the rest of the crew. Jack Howard is injured but mobile. Meeting you at Bay 12 as planned." As they moved through the tunnels, a small green figure stepped out from a hidden passage. Susan recognized Medical Officer Zix. "This way is faster," he said urgently. "And I'm not alone." Behind him stood several aliens of different species. One stepped forward, tall with scaled skin. "I am Krell of the Thraxians. Your resistance gives us hope. We want to help." Susan looked at Grace, who nodded. "We could use guides who know the station." Krell nodded. "More than that. Many of us wish to leave with you. The Confederacy must fall, and perhaps humans are the ones who can help make that happen." Alarms continued to blare as they moved deeper into the station. Krell explained quickly, 17 species are part of the Confederacy, but only the Exilarians rule. The rest of us serve or die. "Not anymore," Susan said firmly. "Not if I can help it." As they neared Bay 12, they could hear the sounds of fighting ahead. William's team was under attack. Grace readied her weapon, ready to show these Exilarians what humans can really do. Susan checked her borrowed weapon, more than ready. It's time they learned that humans don't bargain with those who threaten our people. Maintenance Bay 12 was a war zone. Commander William Reeves and his team had freed the human prisoners, but were now pinned down by Exilarian security forces. Jack Howard, despite his injured arm, had taken a position behind cargo containers and was returning fire. "We can't reach the shuttle," William shouted over the noise of energy weapons. "They've blocked the main route." Eric Bennett worked frantically on a small device. "I need 2 more minutes to hack their security doors." From the opposite corridor, Susan Miller and Grace Duncan arrived with their group. They immediately took cover as energy blasts hit the wall near them. "William," Susan called out, "we need another way out." Krell, the Thraxian, pulled up a holographic map. "There is another path through the waste processing system, but it's dangerous." Jack spotted Susan across the bay, and his face lit up. "Captain, you're alive. Takes more than some four-armed bullies to finish me off." Susan replied with a grim smile. She turned to William. "Commander Reeves, I presume. Nice of Earth to send a welcome party." William nodded. "Admiral Carter sends his regards. We have about 20 minutes before our shuttle is discovered." A massive explosion rocked the station, throwing everyone off balance. Alarms changed tone, becoming more urgent. "What was that?" Grace asked. Eric looked up from his device. "I might have set the power regulators to overload in Section 4. Just a small distraction." "Small," Zix squeaked. "That's a major system failure. The station will start emergency protocols." Susan saw an opportunity. "The communication center, is it near here?" Krell nodded. 2 levels up." "Why?" Susan's eyes gleamed with determination. "Before we leave, I want to send a message. The whole Confederacy needs to hear what humans think about their methods." William hesitated. "Captain, our mission is to get you out safely." "And we will," Susan assured him. "But we can do more than just escape. We can start something bigger." After a moment, William nodded. "What's your plan?" "Eric hacks us into their broadcast system. I deliver a message the Xilarians won't forget. Then we all leave together, humans and anyone else who wants freedom from the Confederacy." Krell and the other aliens exchanged looks. A female Volturi with silver skin spoke up. "Many would join you if given the chance." The group moved carefully through the station, using the confusion from Eric's explosion as cover. Jack stayed close to Susan, filling her in on what had happened on Earth after their capture. "Earth is preparing for war," he said quietly. "Admiral Carter has mobilized everything we have." Susan shook her head. "We can't win a direct war. Not yet. But we can hurt them in other ways." They reached the communication center with surprisingly little resistance. Most of the security forces were dealing with the damage from the explosion and the escaped prisoners. Eric worked quickly, his fingers flying over the alien controls. "Their system architecture is similar to ours in basic ways. I can give you about 2 minutes before they cut us off." "That's all I need," Susan said. As Eric activated the system, Susan stood before the camera. Her face, still bruised from her captivity, appeared on screens throughout the station and beyond, transmitted to every world in the Confederacy. "People of the galaxy, I am Captain Susan Miller of Earth. Today, the Xilarian leadership attempted to execute me and my female officers as a demonstration of power. They believed that by threatening women, they would force Earth to surrender." She leaned closer to the camera, her voice steady and clear. "They were wrong. Humans do not surrender to bullies or terrorists. We do not bargain with those who murder innocents, especially those who target women as a psychological tactic." Susan's eyes burned with intensity. "Today, I formally declare that Earth considers the unprovoked killing of Patricia Young and the attempted execution of female captives an act of war. But not just against humans. The Xilarians have ruled through fear for too long. Many species suffer under their control." Behind her, Krell and the other alien representatives stepped into view. "We are not alone in this fight. Today marks the beginning of the end for the Confederacy as you know it." An alarm sounded as security forces approached. William signaled that time was running out. Susan delivered her final words with cold determination. "Remember this warning. Humans don't negotiate with those who kill women. We end them." The Valiant raced through space, pushing its engines to their limits. Inside, the medical bay was crowded with injured crew members from the star horizon. Jack Howard sat on an examination table as a medic treated his wounded arm. "You should have seen her," Jack told Commander Reeves. Susan took down a Xilarian guard twice her size. I've never seen anything like it. In the command center of the ship, Susan Miller stood with Grace Duncan, Eric Bennett, and their new alien allies. The Thraxian Krell towered over them all, while Zix the Nexian barely reached Susan's waist. We'll reach Earth in 3 days, Grace reported. The cloaking technology is holding. No sign of pursuit yet. Susan nodded, her face serious. They'll come. Vorthak won't let this humiliation stand. Krell spread a star chart across the table. The Confederacy controls this entire sector. These are the major military outposts. He pointed to several locations, but many worlds are ready to rebel if given support. Eric studied the data on his tablet. I downloaded everything I could from their systems. Weapons specifications, fleet positions, communication protocols. Susan looked at the alien representatives gathered around her. Besides Krell and Zix, there were 2 Volturi with silver skin and a tall, thin Malkite with 6 arms like the Xilarians, but with orange skin. When we reach Earth, you'll all be welcomed as allies, Susan assured them. Your knowledge will be invaluable. The female Volturi named Silara stepped forward. My world has suffered under Xilarian rule for generations. What you did, standing up to them, refusing to be intimidated, it gives us hope. Susan placed a hand on Silara's shoulder. Hope is just the beginning. We're going to build something better than the Confederacy. Lisa Johnson entered the room, excitement on her face. Captain, you need to see this. She activated the main screen. We're picking up transmissions from across the Confederacy. Your broadcast is spreading everywhere. The screen showed images from different worlds. On some, aliens gathered in streets, watching Susan's message play on public screens. On others, fights had broken out between local species and Xilarian authorities. It's working, Zix said in amazement. Your words are sparking rebellion. The Malkite, who called himself Drawn, nodded solemnly. The Xilarians rule through fear. You showed the galaxy they can be defied. 3 days later, the Valiant arrived at Earth. The United Earth Defense Council gathered to meet the returning ship and its unusual passengers. Admiral Frank Carter embraced Susan warmly. We thought we'd lost you, he said. Nearly did, Susan replied. But it seems humans are harder to kill than the Xilarians expected. Director Olivia Martinez surveyed the alien visitors with interest. I see you brought friends. Susan introduced each of the aliens. They want to form an alliance against the Confederacy, and they're not alone. According to the communications we've been monitoring, at least 6 worlds have already declared independence. In the council chamber, Krell and the other aliens shared their knowledge of Xilarian weaknesses. The Thraxians had served as warriors in the Confederacy forces and knew their battle tactics. The Volturi understood their shield technology. The Nexians had helped build their communication systems. Their greatest weakness, Krell explained, is their arrogance. They believe no species would dare challenge them. Lisa Johnson, working with Zix, created a system to broadcast evidence of Xilarian atrocities throughout the galaxy. Every story of oppression, every act of cruelty. We'll make sure everyone knows. Admiral Carter studied the tactical displays showing Earth's defenses. Our fleet is ready, but we're still outnumbered. Susan looked at the mixed group of humans and aliens working together. Numbers aren't everything. The Xilarians rule 17 species through fear. We're building an alliance based on freedom. Eric Bennett looked up from his work with Volturi engineers. We've already adapted some of their shield technology to our ships. With the Thraxian battle tactics, we can fight smarter. Olivia Martinez nodded, a determined expression on her face. Then we'll be ready when they come. Susan looked out the viewport at Earth below. They will come. Vorthak is already gathering his fleet, but they don't understand what they're facing. They think they're fighting just one world. But they're not, Jack said, standing beside her with his arm in a sling. They're fighting humanity. And we don't give up, especially when someone threatens our own. High Commander Vorthak stood on the bridge of his flagship. the dominant will. Around him, the largest fleet the Confederacy had assembled in 500 years prepared for battle. 120 warships, each capable of destroying a small moon, moved in perfect formation toward the Sol system. "The humans will regret their defiance," Vorthak said to his officers. "We will make an example of their world that the galaxy will remember for 10,000 years." His second-in-command looked troubled. "High Commander, we have reports of uprisings on 7 more worlds. The humans' message continues to spread. All the more reason to crush them quickly," Vorthak replied. "Once Earth burns, the rebellions will end." 3 days later, the Confederacy fleet arrived at the edge of Earth's solar system. Vorthak expected to find a primitive defense force, perhaps a few dozen ships at most. Instead, sensors showed over 200 vessels arranged in a formation no Xilarian had seen before. "Impossible," Vorthak whispered. "They didn't have this many ships." His tactical officers studied the readings with confusion. Many of these vessels show signs of different technologies working together. Thraxian weapons, Vulturi shields, even some Malkite designs. On the bridge of the Defiance, Earth's newest and most powerful ship, Captain Susan Miller watched the approaching Confederacy fleet. Beside her stood Admiral Frank Carter and representatives from 7 alien species who had joined the Alliance. "They've arrived exactly where we predicted," Krell said with satisfaction. "The Xilarians always used the same approach vectors. They never changed tactics because they've never needed to." Susan nodded. "Until today." She turned to communications. "Open a channel to the dominant will." Vorthak's face appeared on the main screen, his 4 arms positioned in what humans now recognized as a gesture of supreme arrogance. "Human," he said, "you have gathered an impressive collection of ships. But it will not save you. Surrender now, and perhaps some of your species will be allowed to live as servants." Susan stepped forward. "High Commander Vorthak, we invited you here today to witness something the Confederacy has never seen before." "And what is that?" Vorthak asked with contempt. "The birth of the Free Worlds Alliance," Susan replied. 17 species working together as equals, not as masters and slaves." "Impossible," Vorthak hissed. "The lesser species know their place." Susan smiled. "That's where you're wrong. You've never understood us. Any of us." She looked at the aliens standing proudly beside her. "When you killed Patricia Young and threatened to execute women as a show of power, you thought it would make us surrender. Because females are weak," Vorthak said. "No," Susan said firmly. "Because in human history, societies that target women face the most determined resistance. Not because we're weak, but because protecting each other, all of us, is what makes us strong." She signaled to Eric Bennett, who activated a special communications array. Across the galaxy, their conversation was being broadcast to every world in the Confederacy. "Today," Susan continued, "we fight not just for Earth, but for every world that wants freedom. And we will not stop until the Confederacy is transformed." Vorthak roared in anger. "Enough. All ships, attack." The Confederacy fleet surged forward, their formation perfect and predictable. The Alliance ships moved in patterns the Xilarians had never seen, using tactics developed by humans and Thraxians working together. Admiral Carter gave the order, and the battle began. Earth ships darted between the massive Confederacy vessels, using their smaller size as an advantage. Ships from liberated worlds attacked with a fury born from centuries of oppression. On the Defiance, Susan watched as the battle unfolded according to their carefully designed plan. The Xilarian ships, with their rigid tactics and arrogant commanders, couldn't adapt to the unpredictable maneuvers. "They're breaking formation," Krell reported with satisfaction. "The central command structure is failing." 3 hours later, the battle was over. The mighty Confederacy fleet was in ruins. The dominant will, once proud and untouchable, drifted powerless in space. Susan Miller stood face to face with High Commander Vorthak as he was brought aboard the Defiance as a prisoner. "I don't understand," he said, his voice hollow with defeat. How could humans do this? You are so young, so primitive. Susan looked at him with neither hatred nor pity. That's what you never understood. Our strength isn't in our technology or our age. It's in our ability to work together, to protect each other, to value every life equally.